Our next speaker, Laura Cordery, is a RADA-trained set and costume theatre designer and artist who's interested in creating sculptural playgrounds where stories can unfold and characters can play. Please put your hands together for Laura.
Good evening. It's wonderful to be here to talk about the discoveries that led to and also came out of our project, Pageant on Paper. The co-creator of this project, fellow theatre designer Eleanor Field, can't be with us this evening, unfortunately. So, I'm here for both of us. As with most passion projects in theatre, it all begins with discovery. You hear about someone or something new and you're hooked. It shakes you up, an idea begins to form, and often this discovery changes you through the process of exploration and practice. This project completely embraces the process of discovery the whole way through. So here's what happened. Over coffee one day, a friend who is researching female creative practitioners in Edwardian London and their performative spaces for suffrage says to me, "You know Edward Gordon Craig, don't you?" Now, I think every theatre designer knows this famous modernist theatre practitioner, or at the very least has seen his beautiful atmospheric storyboards. She continues, "Well, did you know that he had a sister, Edith Craig, who was also a designer? She was pretty amazing. You should really look her up." So Eleanor and I were astonished that we'd never heard about Edith Craig in all of our studies. Edith is little known compared to her brother, Gordon Craig, or her mother, famous actress Ellen Terry. But Edith herself had an incredible career in theatre as a stage designer, actor, director, stage manager, costumier, theatre company founder, producer, as well as being an activist in the suffrage movement and lead director in their plays and processions. She was relentlessly creative. She was profoundly resourceful in a time where without public funding for theatre, and her work was eclectic and the scope vast. So we were hooked. Edith became an icon for us. Our research pushed us forward. For a few years prior to this, we'd both talked about hopes for creating cross-discipline work, further study in the field, design-led theatre, and most importantly, creating work where we could move outside the prescribed traditional boundaries for theatre designers. Discovering Edith's career trajectory and her diverse roles opened our minds and encouraged us to produce our own work. So we did. We were both interested in exploring more than a straight piece of theatre and had a joint passion for the act of drawing. So we developed a communal work called Pageant on Paper to celebrate Edith Craig and her response and to respond to her work on the suffrage play that she directed, A Pageant of Great Women, by Cicely Hamilton, which debuted in London in 1909. We created a live participatory drawing work installed in the foyer of RADA as part of their summer theatre festival last year. We were resident for a marathon 6 full days of live drawing, and during this time, 100 members of the public contributed to this 9-metre drawing, with an additional over 2,500 visitors passing through the festival. Eleanor and I started the drawing off by including the 44 great women of history characters in the play, and over the 6 days, the paper filled up as the march of great women past and present swelled. People came with their own contributions, from the obvious great leaders to obscure achievers and private family members. It was a rich and varied procession. So the play takes the form of a historical pageant and a trial between woman and prejudice, who is man. Woman presents evidence of the capabilities of women in the form of a series of 44 female characters from history who process across the stage in groups. Enter the learned women, enter the warriors, enter the artists, the heroes, the leaders, and the saintly women. The play would have been a remarkable visual spectacle in the setting of a courtroom, and on seeing the evidence, justice concludes at the end, "I judge thee worthy to attain thy freedom." And the play concludes with an inspirational speech by woman. So our goal was to take inspiration at every stage from Edith's play. The process of remembering is central to both works, and for us, 100 years on, re-remembering these historical figures and adding to their number was key. The original production programmes from the play suggest that the main characters were played by professional actors. That's the three, woman, prejudice and justice. And the other characters were a mix of professional actors, local suffragettes, amateur dramatic groups from each location along the regional tour that it did over a couple of years. The diversity and the number of people involved was remarkable, and we aimed to sort of follow this model. During its week-long residency, we invited artists and non-artists and all ages to contribute. And in future, we hope to be working with an even more diverse set of community groups. So, the discoveries continued through this residency. We had not anticipated the work to be so much more than a participatory drawing. We expected to learn about unknown women and their neglected achievements, but it was so much more. It was a conversation piece with storytelling exchange in front of the drawing. We did not expect arguments to ensue, nor did we expect to have successfully persuade so many people who said, I can't draw, to be brave and make their mark when they had not drawn since childhood. We did not expect to feel so conflicted about drawing women in the warriors or leaders section responsible for hundreds of deaths in the warrior section, or to feel so uneasy about certain political leaders being on the wall. We also did not expect to be conflicted about drawing women on the wall who lived before photography when we were using only illustrations for references, primarily drawn by men, that reinforced soft and acceptable images of women. So, where next? So we've got ambitious plans for phase 2. We're applying for funding to continue to add to the drawing through workshops. And excitingly, plans are underway with a web developer to create an online interactive artwork for the 9-metre drawing with clickable interactive elements. So the viewer would be able to see an image of the whole work, navigate across the image and zoom in to certain areas to view details. Then it would be possible to hover over and select a figure to reveal a pop-up information box. But we questioned whether simple text captions, like an encyclopedia, were too reductive and perhaps a little boring. We are in the business of storytelling after all. So perhaps what is more interesting is a multitude of voices or a dialogue, or comparing and contrasting examples within each of the groups, the artists, the leaders, etc. So perhaps what do different types of leaders look like, rather than focusing on individual women? And this perhaps feels more in keeping with the original script. So we also plan to embed some audio content onto the online artwork as conversation is central to the work. So for example, record conversations from future workshops, and then perhaps create an optional soundscape for the piece. And hopefully this will capture the dynamic, lively and chat-filled atmosphere that's always surrounded the drawing. And with funding, we can invest the time to explore what the theatrical experience of the online artwork might be. So whatever we do in the next phase, we need to embrace the complexities and tensions around the categories of women that structure the original play, and embrace those arguments about women included on the wall and the criteria for success and what defines greatness. It is passion, work ethic, creativity in all forms, and the love of humanity that were important to Edith, and those are the things that made her great. Thank you very much.